I'd like to call to order the July 7th County Commission meeting. If you would, join us with the invocation with Commissioner Galeas, please.
Bow with me, please. Our most holy Father and God, please come with us this day as we consider matters for our county. We thank you for all of the blessings that are evidence of your grace and love. We thank you for all of our first responders, military, teachers, healers. And we ask you to guide us and let us do your will, because even though we know that our world is imperfect, your plan always is perfect. Amen.
You want to send the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
We have 4 members present tonight. Y'all have reviewed the previous meeting minutes and are okay with those. I'd like a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved. Mr. Johnson? Good with the,
I believe so, Mr. Vice Chair. I believe we're ready to move forward.
okay. I think we've got a couple of people that may want to speak tonight. First is Mr. Samuel Amos. If you'd come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
And I actually have some notebooks for you guys, just a couple. If you'd like me to hand them to you. My name is Samuel Amos. I live at 1044 Trinity Place in North Augusta, South Carolina, but I work in Augusta, Georgia as a lawyer. I'm here today to talk about the implementation of body cameras for the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. First off, I want to thank you guys for hearing me today and taking the time out of your day to listen to me. I think this is a very important issue. As a lawyer in Augusta, I also have cases throughout the state, including this county, and including cases which are investigated by the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. I think it's very important for this community that we implement policies and work with the Sheriff's Office to implement policies which protect both the police officers and the citizens for which this board represents. There are 4 things I'd like to go over with you guys with regard to body cameras. First, I'd like to talk about the benefits of body cameras. Second, I can go into the costs and funding for these body cameras. Third, I'd like to talk about the favorability of body cameras. And last, I would like to just talk about what could be a potential policy that you guys could work with the Sheriff's Office to implement. First, with regard to the benefits of body cameras. First, they reduce citizens' complaints against police officers. Studies have shown that citizen complaints have been reduced by almost 90% after body cameras were implemented at local police departments. They also reduce the use of force incidents by police officers on citizens. Studies have shown use of force incidents decreased by 60% after the implementation of body cameras for its officers. Body cameras actually end up reducing costs on police departments. Studies have shown net savings between $2,900 and $3,100 per user of body cameras. And in the notebooks which I provided to you guys, I have provided the studies and the data and evidence which support these conclusions. Also, they improve community confidence between the citizens and their police departments. In a survey of police departments which implemented body cameras across the nation, 92% of them indicated that the primary reason why they deployed body cameras for their officers was to promote accountability, transparency, and legitimacy. They also increased public safety. Officers wearing body cameras lead to more arrests, which lead to more convictions. cases where body cameras were used as evidence resolve quicker in the court system. Rather than languishing for years, they end up leading to more convictions, leading to quicker convictions, and therefore also leading to reduced costs on the court system. And that's exactly what I want to get into next, the cost of body cameras. They are not cheap. They are expensive. However, the costs are far outweighed by the benefits, and the reduced costs as an incident of them actually end up saving you guys money in the long run. On average, the cost of body cameras is between $800 to $1,000. However, the cost is offset by the reduction in costs associated with the reduction in complaints, and the investigations that are associated with these citizen complaints are actually resolved a lot quicker. In fact, studies have shown that there was a 2-week reduction when it came to the time required to resolve these citizen complaints against their officers. It saves time and it saves money. The question would be, how do we fund this? How do we fund these programs? How do we fund these body cameras if it's going to cost around $1,000 for each officer to wear? The Department of Justice actually has implemented federal grants for different law enforcement agencies across the country since 2015 to allow them funding specifically earmarked for the implementation or continuation of body cameras. For example, in Georgia, Newton County Sheriff's Office got almost $90,000 to implement body camera programs. So did the city of Savannah, which received $94,000, the city of Woodstock, which received $60,000, and Fulton County, which received over $100,000. Right now, the Department of Justice, with regard to their funding for these grants, is willing to offer up to $2,000 per camera per officer as a part of this grant, which can be applied for either through you or through the sheriff's office. In fact, recently, the sheriff of Columbia County stated that he would be willing to implement this program if he did receive funding for it. I'd like to talk about the favorability of body cameras. There is overwhelming support among the general public and the police community for body cameras. In a recent Pew Research poll, which I also included in that notebook, the general public favored the implementation of body cameras by over 90%. Police officers favored them by 66%. For the police departments which did implement body cameras as a part of their policy, more than 85% stated that they would recommend other police agencies to adopt this as well. In fact, a recent 2018 study found that more than 80% of police departments across the nation either have a policy for body cameras or plan to implement a body camera policy. In fact, within this judicial circuit, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, the Burke County Sheriff's Office, and the City of Grovetown Police Department have their officers wear body cameras as well. I included in the last part what could be certain principles which could be implemented as part of a policy for the implementation of these body cameras. The main principles which would need to be followed is this wouldn't need to be implemented all at once. This is a costly program. It takes training. It takes getting used to for the officers. This could be a staggered approach over 4 years. For example, let's say that we initiated it in 2021 with the requirement that 25% of police officers deploy these body cameras. And these wouldn't be all police officers. These would be field officers while they're on duty, initiating traffic stops, conducting criminal investigations, speaking with witnesses. Just 25% of those officers. Next year, maybe 50%. Year after that, 75%. And by year 4, 100% of those officers will have these body cameras. And the reason this staggered approach also helps is it helps with regard to costs. You can apply for these federal grants each year to help fund this. If you guys have any questions, I'll take them now.
Yeah, and your first point talked about the benefits and how it reduces complaints. How many complaints do we have in Columbia County each year?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to do a public records request to get all that
But it
information.
sounds like you feel like we have a lot of complaints that we need to do this to reduce the number? You feel like we have a lot of complaints?
I think that would be a question best for the sheriff.
You also said it would reduce the use of force incident.
Mhm.
Do we have a lot of those in Columbia County?
So I don't know a number off the top of my head, but what I do know, for example, last year there was an officer-involved shooting in Columbia County where 3 officers had engaged in a welfare check, a local resident, and unfortunately during the process of that, they had deployed their firearms and killed that citizen. Now, there were no body cameras which were deployed at the time, and I don't know if that would have made a difference. I don't. But what I do know is that in the studies that have been done throughout the nation, it shows that it has made a difference.
So you're not insinuating that we have complaints and use of force incidents and on some large scale. You're just, if we had them, that this would help.
Yes, it would help.
Have you also, you talked a lot about police. And of course, we, and for the county, have deputies, not police per se. Have you been to Harlem and Grovetown to speak to their police department about maybe helping them for their municipality?
Well, I do know that the city of Grovetown does have its officers employ body cameras, but the reason why I wanted to go here to Columbia County to address it is because not only do the Columbia County Sheriff's deputies not have body cameras, they don't have dash cameras in all of their police vehicles.
Anything else, ma'am?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ames, have you been to speak to the sheriff about this?
So I had reached out to him 3 weeks ago. I haven't gotten a response.
I was wondering what specifically made you come before us tonight, and I guess my question would be, as a practicing attorney, are you familiar with the codes of what our powers are in regards to the constitutional officer who is the sheriff?
I am.
It's
But
pretty limited.
I understand. But you guys have a significant amount of political influence and a duty to represent the citizens of this county. And I know that you guys work with the sheriff's office and would be able to exert that political influence to try to influence him. He's even stated he'd be willing to implement this policy if he received the funding to do so. And I know that this board works with him with that regard. And I think if you guys work together, this policy could be implemented.
And I know you've provided studies, which I haven't had a chance to look through completely, but have you done a calculation on what the cost would be to Columbia County if we were to implement these?
Not specifically. It's something that we would have to work with the sheriff on. But this is the first step of a long process.
Are you familiar with the requirements of the state of Georgia to maintain the videos recorded?
No, I understand. And that is the brunt of the cost when it comes to body cameras. It's not actually the camera itself. The majority of the cost is from the storage of the video evidence. About 75% of that cost is the storage. And that is what I included with that $1,000 rough estimate.
Yeah, I mean, it is a requirement that the state of Georgia requires that all video taken by a law enforcement officer be kept on the cloud, or at least on some sort of device that is accessible and secure for up to 7 years. And that is all footage, including the 99% of them driving in the car or waiting at the traffic stop or sitting in the police precinct, or that's currently a state law. And my understanding from the sheriff wasn't exactly that he would be eager to do it if he was funded. It was that because of those restrictions and things like that, if the state were to change the laws, he would be interested in looking into it. That was my understanding from speaking to the sheriff. So, I mean, that was, but you know, you would have to talk to him, but I know that he has other concerns as well, in addition to just the funding.
I understand.
Was very, and may I butt in, so if we did this and we kept all that footage on record, I'm asking you because I'm assuming you've studied this and you know, so that would become public record. All of it would be sunshine laws. I could call up and ask for everything that happened at this address, or with this person's name attached to it, or anything where there was nudity, or whatever the subject matter is. Anybody could call up and ask for that?
That's not necessarily the case. There are certain restrictions when it comes to open records requests. For example, you would not be able to disclose any open records in a pending criminal investigation. Anything which would include nudity, obscenity, things like that, there are restrictions in that regard as well.
Again, looking at not having a chance to review your data here, and I do look forward to doing that. To that point, and I made a note of that too, I understand that theoretically complaints may be lower, although to my knowledge, we have a very minimal amount of complaints in Columbia County currently. But the FOIAs that would then be, I don't see a cost savings there, speaking strictly cost. I don't really necessarily see a cost savings when the idea of being able to research all of that data is made available. I just, as far as cost savings, speaking strictly to cost savings, I don't necessarily know if that's factored in as an offset to any costs of prosecution or complaints.
Well, actually, when you do get a chance to look at the data which I provided, it specifically goes into studies showing that there is cost savings for other police departments which have implemented these body cameras in the past. And I think after you've reviewed that, you can try to compare it to what you see now and see if it's worth it. That's ultimately what this is about. It's a first step towards many steps that are needed to ensure police accountability and transparency.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Your time.
I think we had another request from a Mr. Tony Brown.
Hi,
Hello, sir.
my name is Tony Brown. I live at 4025 Culver Street. My family, my father-in-law bought the house in 1962. Upon his death, my wife and I bought the house in 2012. This is in reference to fireworks in a residential neighborhood. Recently, a couple weeks ago, the fireworks started up, and wow, it was really loud. The folks were shooting the fireworks up in the trees, and sparks were going on people's houses and all that. Well, on the 4th of July and the 3rd of July, it really crunk up. It sounded like a tank battle. And I'm talking about for real. My thing with my parents here tonight is this is my first step in getting the law changed, or at least trying to. The law says that anybody can basically fire fireworks of any kind at any time. I live in a quiet neighborhood, or it was. And listening to these fireworks go off is just too much. People do it without any regard to who has to get up the next day to go to work. They don't worry about elderly people having to deal with these loud sounds and explosions. I can actually feel the explosions that went off 2 weeks ago on the 26th of June. I could feel them inside of my house. They were so close. They were the large mortar kind that had an explosion to light them off, and then the one where they exploded. Well, with all of this and the sparks going in the trees, that's going to set a fire. And the sheriff's department coming out, well, they get tired of having to listen to complaints, and what they told me was, I have no recourse as a citizen of this county. There's nothing I can do. Well, I'm here to ask y'all to get with the legislature, see what we can do about changing the law, amending the law, requiring some kind of formal education or permit to individual citizens if they want to fire this stuff off in neighborhoods, or remove the neighborhood idea altogether. That would be the best thing for the folks in my neighborhood that I've talked to. My wife has talked to friends, even in North Appleton, that said the fireworks really were disturbing their horses, and the horses were going nuts. So I've already contacted my state representatives. Haven't heard back yet. But what can I do as an individual beyond what I've already done? I've already spoken to 4 officers at the sheriff's department, to include one today.
Mr. Brown, I don't think there's gonna be anything that you can do. You started with your state representative, which is a good place to start, because specifically the law states that local governments cannot single out fireworks in a noise ordinance or prevent their use.
Right, I understand.
So our hands are tied, the
But,
deputies' hands are tied, so
but
we're,
as an individual, I'm coming to you as a body that maybe can talk to them at least.
I don't see that happening.
Sir, do you have an HOA?
No, I don't. I live in Edgewood too, and it's way before HOAs, way before. The house was built in 55, so, and the neighborhood fell along not far after that. So I'm just looking.
Once fireworks were brought legal in Georgia, that gives everybody the right to fireworks, just like you do not like fireworks. Why are your rights to overstep somebody else's rights to be allowed to use something that is legal to use in this state?
Right, but it goes back the other way around too.
I agree.
And the deputies I've talked to are frustrated with it.
I'm sure they get a lot of calls.
Not the only one. Well, they're probably going to get a lot more calls. But this was just my first step to see what I could do. I've already contacted them, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Was
I
this
appreciate your
late
time.
at night? Was it past 9 o'clock, 10
Yes,
o'clock,
ma'am.
12 o'clock?
It was. The first time was 9:30. The second time was 10:30, 11, and that was on like the 26th of June. This past Friday night and Saturday, like I said, it sounded like a tank battle. And I've been to Iraq. I know what a tank battle sounds like. And that's what oh my God, I couldn't even watch television.
I think there are extended hours on the 3rd and 4th of July.
11:59.
And then New Year's Eve.
So you're familiar with section
One-
25-10-2, and
Oh,
you've,
yes.
obviously you've read all of
I'm
that.
very familiar. But anyways, I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
sir.
Ms. Norris, you have a request to speak. Would you like to wait until your item is coming up, and we'll let you come up before that? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move down to the consent agenda. I don't think there's any consent items tonight. So we'll go right into the debate agenda.
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion to approve a proclamation in honor of the 200th anniversary of Damascus Baptist Church.
Second?
All right. Anybody would like to vote for that? Raise your right hand.
I believe the actual proclamation will be read at their celebration at their church on Sunday.
I believe that's on the 19th of this month.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations to them. Next item.
I make a motion to approve the reappointment of Dr. Richard Schwartz to the East Central Georgia EMS Council.
Second.
All right, all in favor of doctor's reappointment, raise your right hand. Motion passes 4-0. All right, Alan, I believe you're up, but I think Ms. Norris would like to come up and speak at this time. Norris, would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Excuse me, my name is Jeanette Norris, and I live at 4856. I've submitted a proposal to have the property rezoned so that I could open my farm to visit a small pet. I'm a pediatrician, and I've been told by many there are not a lot of children and families thought that this would be a nice activity for them to do. I already have a little farm. these pictures there, and I realize they're not very attractive at this point, but it's a work in progress. Plan to have nice little structures of the animals. I think that it would be a very educational activity for children and memorable experience for families to be able to bring their children. I have a pavilion there where I would invite them to have family picnics, children's birthday parties. Set back from Columbia Road, it's not directly on the road, and when people come there for the first time, they're very surprised to find it back there. I have a long driveway. As they come in, they're very surprised and pleased that there's a little farm there, and if they don't have their children with them, oftentimes they ask if they can come back and bring their children or grandchildren, and I'm always try to accommodate them. And matter of fact, immediately before coming here, I had a tow truck driver at the property, and he was shocked to see the animals there, very pleased. He even asked me if he could have his son's birthday party there. And I said, well, I'm about to go to a meeting where they're likely going to deny that option. I feel that the location is very convenient and not be a nuisance to any of the surrounding areas, any of the neighborhoods. Seems to be a misunderstanding of the intended scope or size of this endeavor. I want it to remain small. I do live there. I don't want people traipsing all over my property all times of the day in a disorganized manner. So I plan to have activities that are scheduled or by appointment and for a very limited number of people with minimal traffic, maybe 15, 20 cars a day. And the events would be small, mostly children's birthday parties with 20, 25 participants, including the adults. And there's been some concern expressed about possibly the numbers of animals being out of control. But as I said, I want to keep it small and manageable. I'm reducing the numbers of animals now to reduce it by about half to make it
How many do you have
more
on
manageable,
site?
or just maybe one full-time and a part-time person.
How many-
Right now, well, I have a good variety of animals. I have mostly chicken. The majority of the animals are chickens. I have maybe a couple hundred chickens, turkeys, peacocks, goats, ponies, pigs, geese, guineas, the ducks, geese, swans, they free-range the property. I have a pond where they swim. I have about 12 to 15 goats. I'm gonna reduce that to probably less than 10. I have 6 ponies, and matter of fact, I'm selling a couple of those this week. I have 3 pigs. One of those is being sold Thursday. And I don't plan for it to become an excessive number of animals. It's a small property. I know that you can't sustain a large number of hoofed animals.
How long have you lived at that property, Ms. Norris?
2.5 years. When I bought it, I called planning and zoning, and I asked if I could have farm animals. They said yes. I asked if there were restrictions on the type. I was told no. I asked if there were restrictions on the number, and I was told no.
So the neighborhood next door was there before you moved in and opened your farm?
Yes, but this property was a farm in the past. That's my understanding. There were cows. And I've spoken with the neighbors. I went door to door and asked if there were any concerns about it, if anything was annoying them, bothering them about the property. And there was nothing specific mentioned. Now, sometime in the past, before I had gotten a chance to put up a privacy fence that was already planned, there was a complaint about how the property looked. I was storing some construction materials there for fencing and pins and such. And I did put up a privacy fence. Now, the entire property is perimeter fenced. Keep the animals in, plus there are fences inside to contain the animals so that they don't escape. Their safety as well as want them out in the neighborhood and on Columbia Road, but I feel that they're very well contained.
Are there any questions from other commissioners from Mr. Norris?
I'll ask for staff. This is an R1 to S1. So you have almost approximately close to 10 acres. Currently R1. Are we in compliance currently?
Technically, yes. She's not not yet licensed as a commercial business. Here in front of you tonight is seeking for a commercial business. She's limited to some personal agricultural activity. And she's right, she was subject to code actions in the past and brought those into compliance. But, she's seeking to commercialize the activities that are occurring on that site. So
But the current number of livestock, animals,
don't have specific numbers for the types of animals and uses that you've got going on in our code currently. That's why we're with an S1 and can have the right to limit.
But you don't charge
My-
people to come.
Well, I can't, I haven't been granted a business
Currently she-
license.
That's what we're asking for.
And that's,
Get to that
that's
kind of
why,
hand charge.
why I'm requesting the rezoning, just so I can share it with members of the public. It's gonna be a farm.
My question was not of any fault of yours, ma'am. I was just asking if we were currently if you, through no fault of your own, if you were currently in compliance with a residential zoning, an R1 zoning, as opposed to an RA
I
zoning.
understand, that's why I
That was-
called planning and zoning before
Yeah,
I got my
and
first
it
animal.
sounds like they told you something. I just wanted to make sure we were right there.
Well,
Ma'am, if you-
I've tried to comply with all the requirements.
Have you
all along
examined the
the
state
way.
regulations and decided whether you would be in compliance as you are now situated with the state regulations for being a facility?
Oh, yes, I have,
And how do you
through
compare?
USDA and Georgia Department of Agriculture, and I dealt with all those agencies. I'm not required to have a USDA license. I did at one time, and then that was only because I had a zebu bull. That's one of the animals that the USDA requires a license for. I sold him. I was told I did not need it any longer, and I don't plan to get any more what they consider exotic animals.
I read your waste treatment plan. As I understand, all of the waste that's generated on that land is going to stay on the premises? All the bedding, compost?
Mm-hmm.
I keep animals myself. I have an understanding of what you're up against here, okay? Your hens alone are going to require 2-week turnover. I'm just wondering where all of that bedding is going to go.
Yeah, we currently have a compost pile. I have a manure spreader. Drag the fields, we try to clean. Mud is constantly.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Ms. Norris, if I may ask, when you bought the property 2.5 years ago, what was your original intent? Was it to move in this direction originally, or did you have for your own enjoyment? What were you?
Well, I did want to be able to share it. I didn't realize it was going to be such an ordeal. County zoning regulations. Now, I've tried to do everything that's been asked of me. Able to have people and to have it fund itself. Right now, I'm funding the farm, and I still allow people to visit when they request, but I'm not soliciting.
Right.
visitors. And I do have a CUVA exemption on the property now that was granted last month, which requires it to continue to have an agricultural purpose. As I understand, it requires me to do this for 10 years, to have animals, have farm animals, breed them, to buy and sell them. I'm not allowed under this exemption add another house or develop it in
Is
residential manner.
there any conflict with that exemption regarding commercial, well, the commercial use is very wide, regarding having a petting zoo, inviting the public in with a CUDA? Is there any? No issue there? Okay, just wanted to double check that.
I'd have to look into that. Yeah, I don't think the way it's being asked, I don't think there's a problem with that, that particular piece.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't mind taking a little more time to really look at this.
I would appreciate that, and I'm willing to make any modifications necessary.
Actually like to table this in one more meeting, if you don't mind. I'd like to actually look, this is my district, I'd like to look a little bit more into this. I've read the report and but I would like to maybe speak with you. I haven't had a chance to speak directly
I
to you.
would like to invite you to visit.
So, and maybe do that. So,
May I ask a couple more questions before,
Please.
just so I'm clear, as I read the report from Thursday night when you were with the Planning and Zoning Commission, it appears that one of the Planning and Zoning Commissioners questioned whether you were charging in it, and you had said, no, you were not currently charging. It's not intended to be utilized for profit. So is
No,
this?
I didn't say it was not intended to be. I said, I'm not doing this for profit, because there really is no profit I can foresee in doing this, but I'd like for it to sustain itself.
So is your next step going to be to form a nonprofit for this
I've
property?
considered that. I've considered that, and possibly hiring veterans or some special group. It depends on,
my last question, Ms. Norris, would just be, without delving, I don't want to be too personal. Do you have, how much help do you have? I mean, for a venture of this size, I just want to, you know.
right now, I have 2 full-time people and several part-time, mostly young people, teenagers. I have a lot of family help. One of the full-time people is my nephew, and I have 2 sisters who help out part-time. I have other nephews, nieces who come out and help. So it's been a big family venture for the most part.
Okay.
But I pay out of my pocket quite a bit to sustain this right now.
All right, ma'am.
Any more questions?
I got one, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, sir.
Are you selling any of the products here? Is this any sort of agricultural, like your chicken eggs? Do you make those available for sale? Are you selling those products now, or would you?
I do sell some chickens, goats.
Eggs, do you harvest the eggs and sell the eggs?
Well, that's, there's a bit of confusion. I applied for a license to sell eggs. I was told that I could not have it. I asked why, and I was I was told because I applied. And then I questioned further, and I was told, well, maybe it's, I asked, well, why is it that someone down the road can put out a sign and sell fresh eggs, but I can't? And I was told maybe they have different zoning. Well, I asked, and no, that person is zoned the same, is zoned R1. They have chickens, donkeys, rabbits, other animals.
So when you say you asked if you could sell eggs, you asked somebody at the county if you could do that?
Yes, planning and zoning, license.
Okay, that's all the question.
Plan
We're
to
trying to figure out the agricultural use here and what the use is and how it fits into our zoning district and what things are allowed and not allowed. So that was just one of the questions that I needed answered, so we can help you or guide you as far as the code is concerned. And then obviously you can make your decision from there.
Thank you, Ms. Norris.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
It being my motion then, with some of the questions, I guess not, I think allowing for a little bit more in-depth study, I'd like to make a motion to table this until our next meeting.
Second?
Else in favor of that?
Dies for the lack of a second. All right, next item.
Do you have another motion? Or-
There,
Yeah, you gotta have-
action has to be
Yeah,
taken.
you have to take an action, so you can either take another motion at this point, from anyone. Take
Anyone,
another-
anybody want to make a motion?
My motion was to table it, so.
Okay.
That died for lack of a second.
Right.
Okay, so, anybody else have a motion?
Make a motion to disapprove the request for zoning from R1 to S1 for the property located at tax map 068.
A second, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Carries 3-1. Next item.
I would like to make a motion to approve the request for conditional use for a place of worship for property located at tax map 077C 056A.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Doctor, you want
This is the current building exists. This will be a tenant in that building, so they need this zoning to actually have the place of worship, be Sundays and Wednesdays.
all right, all in favor of this motion, raise your right hand.
Yeah, that's fine.
Motion carries 4-0. Item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for a major PUD revision for property located at tax map 078, 178, and 178A, subject to the conditions enumerated in the June 18th, 2020 Planning Commission report.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to ask staff if there been any public comment to the contrary, negative on this property right outside the old Bilo Shopping Center.
And one of the conditions is that he'll present his plan to Planning Commission. Is that correct?
That's
Needs
correct.
architectural approval, right? Yes.
The elevations, have to go back to planning commission.
Right.
All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Carries 4-0. Item?
I'd like to make a motion to award the bid and approve the contract for the Plaza Park to Contract Management Incorporated in the amount of $1,465,714.58 to be funded through the 2017 GO bonds.
Second?
Second with a question. Does this come in within budget, Mr. Slaughter?
It is within budget. This is not the total project, but it is within our budget for the site work. We do have a farmer's market that will bid out as a separate item.
Okay.
Happy to go into a little more detail on this one. We did receive these bids on Thursday, so it did not have a chance to go to committee, so we asked for permission to bring it straight to commission for our timeline. This is a parking lot and green space over here in the plaza. The parking lot will service the green space as well as the whole plaza development, the PAC, the Maybon buildings, other buildings come in the future. The Contract Management, Inc. was not the low bid that we received. The low bid we received was from Adams Henry Christopher Contracting, LLC, the amount of $858,409.18. Did call this gentleman and asked him for his contracting license, and he informed us he did not have one. He planned on finding contractors to do his work for him. Therefore, we cannot recommend that person to you. He does not have the license required by the bid.
I'll put in a bid for $10 right now. Just
That's
low
why
bid.
staff
You don't want it.
Staff is recommending go with the second place, which would be the first most responsive bidder.
Okay, and we did have multiple bidders, is that correct?
We did, we had
More
6
than
bidders.
6 bidders.
Just a question, Mr. Schlocker. It's a seven-figure contract. I always get a little ticklish about that. Is there how many projects do you think this person has completed of this size?
Of this size, we did call and check on them, ask them. They've done one project about this size. Most of their projects are smaller. They do a lot of utility work. This will be their first big site project. Just give us a little pause to think, but they do have the proper requirements. They do have the bonds. They do have a bid that came very close to other bids.
And they are bonded, yes.
They are bonded, yes, sir.
I apologize for asking 1,000 questions, but since it didn't go through committee, one more. So this is a portion of what's going on over there, and this is parking as well?
It's
Is
a
gravel
park-
parking or asphalt surface?
The asphalt parking. This is
So they'll have curb and gutter in the whole
curb and gutter,
thing.
trees, landscaping. It'll be asphalt parking. Originally, you're probably thinking we were trying to go with a natural look like the Augusta National uses. However, with the number of shows we expect at the Performing Arts Center, we really didn't think it would hold up. You know, the Augusta National uses it 1 week out of the year. We're gonna be using it every week of the year. Backed up and decided going with asphalt parking versus the natural
When you
grass
dressed
bed.
up wearing heels, walking across gravel's not fun
That
too.
was definitely something that.
We get a
that's-
complaint or two
constant-
about that.
Not that I wear heels, but I did say that.
Just take my word for it.
How many parking spaces do you know right off?
It's over 300. I forget the exact number. It was over 300 paved parking spaces in this new lot.
In
With some
addition to the
overflow.
parking deck that we've got going.
Parking deck, the footers are going in right now, the foundation being poured, there's 283 parking spaces there. Green space can be used as overflow parking in this plaza park we're building as well, so we're gonna have close to 1,000 parking spaces, paved parking spaces in that area when these projects are done.
And the other bids were closed.
They were, so, after the 1,468 number, the next one was a 1,561,000, so less than $100,000 difference on a $1.5 million bid, so less than 10%. The next one after that was 1.579, so we really feel those three numbers were the good numbers, and this is the low of those three.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Mr. Driver, any legal?
No legal matters tonight.
All right, any public comments or? Anybody? All right, we'll go right down to the executive session items. More property. I make a motion to approve resolution 20-22, declaration of taking an order by condemnation for a portion of tax map 077105, Barbara, Maryland, for the improving, widening, paving, aligning, and maintaining of State Route 28 Fewers Ferry Road.
Second.
Favor, raise your right hand. Carries 4-0.
Just didn't ask, but it's an estate issue. Problems.
It's not necessarily being intentionally
That's right.
argumentative.
There's just title issues.
Thank you for that. I make a motion to approve the donation of Columbia County parcels 57, 64A, 65, and 66 to the Georgia Department of Transportation for the Fewers Ferry Road widening project.
Second?
All in favor, raise your right hand. Last item, I make a motion to approve $48,500 to CK Martinez, Georgia LLC, parcel 1A, $10,500 to Nancy M. LaSalle, parcel 92, to obtain right-of-way and/or easements for the SR 28 Fewers Ferry widening project.
Second.
Doctor, how many we have left now?
I think we're down to our last 15 or so to actually close on. Is that right? To negotiate, we have to close more.
Yeah, they've done their part, but we're having to deal with banks and getting releases. Ever dealt with large banks? Very difficult process. Slowed us down a bit, but these are the hardest ones that are left. They'll take a little bit more time, but we're getting through them.
Looking to start somewhere toward the end of the year?
That's our goal, yes, sir, is to have this out to bid and under construction by the end of the year.
All right, all in favor of this motion, raise your right hand. 4-0.
I make a motion that we adjourn, sir.
Second.
We are adjourned at 6:50.
Vote on it.